not so good. Beautifully caught. And the Indian skipper has done a tremendous job to get back there. Marvellous running catch.
The 1983 World Cup final, India were in a situation where they were defending a small total. And Kapil Dev had to instill in the side the confidence that they could still win, which he was able to do. It wasn't any ordinary batting side that he was up against. India, through the mid-80s, struggled a lot, and there was a lot of criticism of Kapil Dev's captaincy. But I think on the occasion of the World Cup final, when it really, really mattered, Kapil Dev's captaincy was terrific.
And that's out. Yes, it's all over this time. As India race into the pavilion with the Prudential Cup theirs.
Well, I think Kapil Dev's greatest attribute was his calmness. Played against him perhaps 2-3 series. Never saw him lose his cool on the cricket field. Never saw him get harsh or hard on his teammate. I think that is what helped him to motivate his team and to lead his team. I think that was one of his strengths, or perhaps his greatest strength apart from his cricketing ability.
Very talented batsman. I remember he's got this famous 175 against Zimbabwe when their team was struggling in '83 World Cup, and that World Cup eventually they went on winning that '83 World Cup. But I think again he led from the front in that particular World Cup. But again, he was also very natural talent. 5,000 test runs ask a lot, but I think in generally he again never took his batting as serious like he should. He should have got at least 7,000 test runs with his ability in batting, but very natural.
Kapil Dev, because of his positive attitude, really got those 175 runs.
Of course, the significance of that, had Kapil been dismissed for a low score that day, India probably would have lost, which means they would never have made the World Cup final, which means that the whole romance of the 1983 World Cup for India would have been lost. It was just an extraordinary innings.
What else do you need from a captain? He gave a performance where he showed the rest of the team that this is what is required of us, and he was a great motivator, I would say. Whenever he spoke to his boys, he would give them a positive talk, positive vibes would get into the players, and that is what is required from a captain. His positivity was his plus point, but at times it became negative as well for him. If he had to choose, as I said, between a win and a draw, he would go for the win. So sometimes this backfired on Kapil. I mean, he would want to go for the win, and in the process lost the game.
By the end of 1984, Kapil had been replaced as Indian captain by Sunil Gavaskar. During the 1984-85 home series against England, Kapil was dropped from the Indian side for the first and only time in his career.
In trying to save a match in Bombay, he holed out a deep long off when he was under instructions to block, until they dropped him for the second test. And he came back in Madras, and Chris Cowdery was bowling, and Chris got a wicket, and Kapil has walked into a huge reception. Everybody wondered now, how do you play your first ball after you've been dropped? Are you going to make a gesture? Are you going to say, let's have peace and I'll play properly? First ball from Cowdery was as near a wide as you can ever get without it being called, and he launched himself at it, and he smashed it through Norman Cowan's hands at wide mid-off and turned and waved his bat to the dressing room. So that was his that was his gesture as to what had happened. So he was a terrific character in his own country and an absolute legend.
By 1986, Kapil had again become captain for a tour of England, but in 20 attempts he'd still not led India to a test match victory. In the first test at Lord's, he spectacularly broke his captaincy duck. Bowling magnificently to take 4 for 52 in England's second innings, he then steered India to victory, slamming a 6 to win the match. A few weeks later came another historic event, this time against Australia, in the second ever tied test.
I think he batted brilliantly in that test match. He got 100 in the second innings, and what a tremendous performance in that test match. I mean, last day, 90 overs, India had to score 348 runs. Now, you've played on a pitch for 4 days, there was wear and tear, and a target of 348 in 90 overs, that too against an Australian attack. It wasn't an easy target. I mean, and Kapil didn't only show us the way, show the Indians the way, but he motivated all of us by, he kept talking to all of us that this is a target we can achieve. The wicket is still good. And if you think positive, we are going to get it. And we did get to 347. Unfortunately, it was a tie, but if you see it today, it's a part of history.
In early 1987, India narrowly lost a home test series to Pakistan, and Kapil's days as captain were over. Kapil played on for half a dozen more years under 4 different captains. He would continue to enjoy great moments.
An outstanding effort that comes to mind is Lord's. When you're looking to save the follow-on, 24 required, what does he do? He doesn't block. It's 4 sixes, and only once did he step out of the crease.
They needed 24 to save the follow-on, and 4 in a row. Kapil hit him onto the covers at the nursery end, just standing down there, the covers spread out. And I remember it because a good mate of mine who was doing the sponsoring of the covers.